Pats Nation, what is going on? You guys already know who it is. Patriots Global, Patriots Football Breakdown. We are back at it, guys. Little disclaimer. As you all know, your boy did get the vid. Not a good time. Not a good time. I'm still recovering. I am able to finally go out and do me, but like the whole post getting the illness.
Yeah, I
We gotta
forgot
be
to ask
careful.
you about that.
You gotta be, and you have to be careful about saying the C word on YouTube. The dumbest thing. That's why I say the vid. Um, that's why I'm a little bit slow, still tired, sluggish. So it seems a little different in today's live stream. Just a little bit of a disclaimer on that one. But me and Page's football breakdown back at it again. Finally able to come back. Unfortunately, because I was sick, haven't been able to do these post games. And I believe we haven't done it in a week or two. Is that the last game or the game before that? It's either been one or two games we weren't able to cover, but nonetheless, we are back at it again. I do appreciate everybody for coming into this game or into this live stream here for the Patriots versus Bills post-game discussion. You guys know exactly how we start each and every single one of these videos. So without further ado, let's just roll that intro. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about every single time. It's not a video. It's just every time we go live, there's always some type of issue technically.
Of course. I think that's how it's supposed to go.
That's YouTube doesn't like success or doesn't like me.
It's like
one
of
the two. The Patriots, they're probably like Eagles fans or something, or Bills fans. It has to be one of them. But me and Paige's football breakdown are just sitting there while I am writing down freaking notes because Game Pass just does not want to work. So
gotta do it old school.
Old school. We were like supposed to be live.
Paper.
Yes, we were supposed to be live a while ago. I understand why Belichick doesn't like tablets now. I understand why he likes paper and pen. It's reliable. But New England Patriots versus Buffalo Bills for the division. Week 13. Week 13. I have not been this excited for a game in I don't think I've been this excited for a game. Maybe week 4 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Maybe I might even have had been more excited for this game, but I'm not going to lie. For me personally, did not live up to expectations at all. Compared to the hype I had for this game heading into it, it did not live up to that hype.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a compelling game. It was a close game, obviously.
For sure.
Blowout one way or the other. But I was very happy with it, obviously, for the obvious reasons. The final score 14-10. I was hoping that we'd beat him a little worse than we did because I haven't been a big Buffalo person all year long. I don't really think they're all that great. I mean, I think Josh Allen might be. I mean, he's a really good player. I'm not going to sit here and say he's an MVP candidate, though. I just don't feel that way. I think Buffalo is kind of a soft team. I think we kind of exposed them last night. 222 yards on the ground. They pretty much knew we were going to run it at them all night long, and they still couldn't stop it, man. I think the Patriots reestablished dominance in the AFC East.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I will say the weather played a huge factor, and Belichick said it in that post-game win video. I mean, that's why you practice in this crap, all right? This is exactly why. It's freaking, it's raining outside, it's thunderstorming, it's gusts of wind, it's snow. Belichick doesn't care. We're practicing in this because there's only a handful of stadiums that have a in-dome stadium that can close the top of the stadiums in order for the weather to truly not matter. That's why you practice in this, because at the end of the day, say this was like the Falcons coming to New England and this was the weather. There's absolutely zero chance the Falcons would win that game because they're used to playing inside a stadium. They're not used to playing in this kind of condition. But I definitely do think that because of these weather conditions, that definitely kind of dictated how this game was going to go. I guarantee you the game plan this entire week was not run the ball 98% of the time. I can promise you it wasn't. I think they kind of got there and they said, well, dear God, the wind is this bad. I don't know if you saw the video, but before the game even started, Gunnar Olszewski was the first player out on the field, and he was just tossing the ball up to himself because
it's
obviously as the punt
ridiculous.
returner, he's throwing the ball up and just seeing how the wind's going to take it. He's throwing the thing up and it's going all the way to the other side of the field. I mean, it was bad. And I think for that reason alone, Belichick knew you have to win the turnover differential. Belichick harps on that in every game, but especially in this game, a divisional game, a game not just for the AFC East, but the AFC period. He said, you know what, we cannot turn the ball over. And it doesn't matter how perfect Mac Jones has been. It doesn't matter his completion percentage, which Mac Jones is on pace to break the rookie completion percentage, which Dak Prescott currently holds. It doesn't matter how accurate Mac Jones is, because we saw it. We saw it several times with Josh Allen, and he's someone who can rip the ball against the wind. It was taking the ball. And it's just that little inch, even the littlest inch for the wind to take that ball that could really result in an interception. And depending on where the ball is and where the placement is placed on the ball and the defender, that could be a pick six. So Belichick just said, you know what? Every single game plan we have involving the run, we have to bring everything out for this game. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I don't think they had a concrete, set number of pass plays in mind. I don't think they came into the game saying, oh, we're only going to throw it 3 times. I think they probably had an idea that they were going to be running it most of the time. But to only throw the ball 3 times or have 3 pass attempts in the entire game it's pretty wild. And, those gusts, man, I think the gusts were up to 45 miles an hour. Josh Allen, he's got a strong arm. I think we can all agree Josh Allen's got a stronger arm than Mac Jones right now. But I mean, I don't care how strong your arm is. I mean, those kind of gusts, it's hard to cut the ball through that kind of wind, man. That's debilitating to really any offense. And I'm surprised the Bills threw it as much as they did. And I know Allen's got that arm on him, but I mean, you kind of got to play to your strengths a little bit. You got to play to the situation a little bit too.
Yeah, I 100% agree. First donation of today's chat goes to my brother, Viral Rookies. Buddy, thank you so much for being here, being the first donator of today's chat. You said, yo, Colby sent a vid on Instagram. Not done yet for sure, bro. I will check that out after the live stream. Make sure you send me the regular vid. As long as you post it on your Instagram, I'll repost it there on my story on Insta. Help get some traction to that vid for you. But I really appreciate the donation, my guy. Thank you for being here, being a part of the discussion. Like I said, I'll reach out to you here after the live stream. But let me pull out my handy dandy notepad here, because the freaking website here for the NFL decided to go and just not work technology. For me. Just not work for me, apparently. Total yards, Patriots 241. Total offensive yards, Patriots win with 241 to Buffalo Bills 230. Passing yards, I'm sure you could have guessed this. Buffalo easily beats out New England in this category. Bills with 131 passing yards, which still, that's not a lot, especially for Josh Allen. This is a pass-first team. They do not have a good running back group at all. Because of that, like you mentioned earlier, you knew they were going to have to pass this ball. If they wanted any chance of beating the Patriots, even in this wind, it was going to have to be a game where they got the pass going. But Bills 131 passing yards to New England's 19. Yeah, you heard that right. Just 19 passing yards for New England. They definitely win that aspect. Yards per play. Things were not crazy different. New England does win this category almost by a full yard, though. Bills were averaging 4 yards per play to New England's 4.9. Third down conversion percentage. Buffalo Bills actually beat New England in this category. And I think a lot of times you look at a couple of different things when winning the game. You look at that third down conversion percentage and you look at the turnover differential. No team really outbeat the other in turnover differential because of, 0 teams threw interceptions, but fumble wise, because of that, they did match. But third down conversion percentage wasn't close. Wasn't close at all.
Yeah, Patriots were very good on third downs last night.
No, not at all, which is why I'm actually I felt like New England was going to win this game, but you look at these statistics afterwards and you're like, wow, they actually got lucky that they came out with the win. The Buffalo Bills were 30% on a third down conversion. New England, 16%. 16%.
Yeah, it's rare that you had that number and that you go on to win the game. Yep.
Somehow New England
Statistic
comes
is
out.
important as third down conversion. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Somehow New England comes out and still wins 14-10.
The great equalizer, Mother Nature. And Buffalo couldn't adjust, man. They couldn't get any running game going. They haven't been a great running team all year, and they still had to rely on the passing game, even in those elements. It just shows how one-dimensional they are offensively. And when they got their pass game going, they are really good. Don't get me wrong, but Buffalo. I mean, I kind of had a good feeling about it going into this game, knowing that the elements were going to be the way they are. Because I didn't think Buffalo was that tough of a running team, and they still weren't able to do it. In the game situation. It really worked out well for us in that regard. But even with the third down numbers being what they were, that was still particularly surprising because a lot of the third downs were like 3rd and 5 or less. The fact that we had 3rd and shorts and still weren't able to convert a lot of them, that was kind of scary. But that's going to be a number we have to work on going forward. But overall, I mean, great job adjusting to the climate last night, adjusting to the weather. I thought we did a much better job of that than the Bills did.
Yeah, and I mean the team who can really play in these weather conditions is going to be the team that, despite these statistics, is going to come out on top. And I mean, you even look at last year, New England and the Ravens. Ravens come to New England. That was a big reason New England wins that game, is because of that weather and those issues that they were having. But I mean, you look at the weather and it played nothing but a huge factor. New England scores that touchdown on the Damian Harris 63-yard touchdown goes down. New England says, you know what? Nick Folk pregame, 34-yard field goal. Easy money, especially for Nick Folk. Completely misses it because of the wind. New England decides to just go for 2. Kind of surprised the Bills didn't decide to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But
they had one go right. It kind of looked like a slider in baseball, man. Just totally just died off at the end, hooked out to the right. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they didn't decide to go for 2 at that point, especially when New England did. I feel like that was a bit of a stupid move, especially looking at the weather. But I mean, like you mentioned, there were times that the ball just completely got away from Josh Allen when going to receivers, which really wasn't Josh Allen's fault necessarily. It really was this wind that was taking the ball away. Stephon Diggs, like you mentioned, that field goal. I mean, if they make that field goal later in the game, this is 13-14. That's a 1-point game. It's a lot easier for them to then get, even despite the weather, it's a lot easier for them to get into a position where they only need to kick a field goal to win the game rather than having to get a touchdown to win the game.
Yep.
So this game definitely was a lot closer than a lot of people would give it credit for. Penalties, I would say that's my biggest takeaway. Negativity, or a negative side of things here for New England would be the penalties. New England comes out with 6 penalties, and just stupid penalties, man. Stupid penalties at the wrong time. And it seems to be like one thing that New England is just not shaking is these stupid penalties. It's just game after game. Some games are better than others, but for the most part, it's these stupid penalties at just the absolute wrong time. I mean, I will say one penalty on Miles Bryant, absolutely ridiculous. And I will say,
that was piss poor. That was
the
bad.
refs in this game were bad, period, on both sides. But in the air, Miles Bryant pushing, who was it? Stephon Diggs, I believe.
Yeah.
Pushing Stephon Diggs out of bounds after a catch.
Yeah, and they called it unnecessary roughness. Yeah, I couldn't even remember who it was against because I was inexplicable when they called that. I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, that was awful officiating last night. Bill Vinovich, the lead referee. I mean, usually his crew is better than that, but I mean, I don't know, for whatever reason they called that game. They had an off night, that's for sure.
Oh, you know what? I don't even think it was a pass to Stephon Diggs. I actually think it was Josh Allen, one of his many rush attempts, because we'll get into these statistics. He actually led the Bills in rushing.
A late head out of bounds.
He rushed the ball, and Miles Bryant came, and when he was diving to try to pick up that first down, Miles Bryant, while Josh Allen's in the air, pushes him out of bounds, which you're taught to do, and they call it unnecessary roughness, which is stupid because it would be unnecessary roughness if he was out of bounds, the play had been over, but obviously he wasn't. That was just an absolutely stupid call. But again, New England 6 penalties to the Buffalo Bills 3. There was a point where Dante Hightower horse collared, I believe it was, I want to say Singletary. That's uncalled for. I don't know why in God's name Hightower thought tackle like that. You're a veteran. You've been in the league for how long to horse collar tackle a guy? It just seemed
Yeah, can't do it. I
unnecessary.
mean, I think you kind of saw him. I think he realized that, at the last second, he had his arm on him, for a quick second. Then he took it off, but it was still long enough to where, the referee threw the flag on it. But yeah, I mean, player Dante's experience has got to know better than that.
Yeah, I mean, I watched that play happen and I was like, oh, they're going to 1000% call that. I mean, a horse collar tackle. I mean, it's way too easy to see. You know that they're going to call it. But I mean, Miles Bryant redeems himself at the end of the game with that pass break up there. Josh Allen trying to go to Stephon Diggs. They get into the red zone. And you know what? I will say that this was a very good game for the defense in terms of bend but do not break. It really seemed like, despite the weather, that passing attack was getting away from this defense for a little bit there. They were really driving down the field a couple of times there on New England, and I'm just going, dear God, because New England's going to run the ball. New England showed the whole game, we are just going to run the ball. We are not going to pass the ball. So if it gets to the point where we're in within 2 minutes and New England has to pass the ball to win this game, I was not confident.
Yeah, it
I
could
was
have been
not
trouble.
confident. It could have been
Yeah.
big trouble for New England. But you know what? The Patriots defense, they get into the red zone. They get in 10, 15 yards into the red zone there for the Buffalo Bills. And every single time New England's defense was able to shut them down, they were able to come up with key sacks, sacks that should have occurred but didn't, but nonetheless got pressure, got sacks at the right time. And they held them to field goals, or at least field goal attempts, instead of allowing them to get a touchdown. And I think that was another big key to this game because, like I said, this game is only a 4-point differential. And there's a point where they're going for 3 points because they weren't able to go for the touchdown at that point, and they totally miss it. If they make that, this is a totally different game. I mean,
the fourth down stand to effectively end the game. I mean, like you said, if they go for 2 on that touchdown earlier in the game, now you're just talking about a field goal to tie it. So we kind of got a lucky break there in that regard. But yeah, like I said, some bad decision making there by Sean McDermott. But man, just that was just such an incredible 4-play stand there down in the red zone to end that game. Fantastic defense. That reminded me of some of the old school Patriot defenses like Willie McGinnis back in the day. Just somebody stepping up and making a huge play on a 4th down to really seal it for us. That was great.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I would say one of my kind of key takeaways to this game, we're heading into the bye week, which, I mean, thank God. It does seem like New England over the last week or two has gotten a little bit more healthy, which has been really good to see. But now we're headed into the bye week, and they should be getting a lot more healthy. I really am praying to just see that injury list just at least half of those guys just completely get taken off once we come back and get ready for, who do we play? The Colts. We come back to play the Colts. Yeah. When they come back and get ready to play in that Colts game. But I mean, Adrian Phillips went out for a little bit in this game, a huge piece. Matt Judon got injured at 1.2. Multiple guys defensively, top tier guys. I mean, you look at this defense, and I would say those are probably, I mean, you look at top 3 most important, J.C. Jackson, Adrian Phillips, and I would say Matthew Judon. 2 out of those 3 most important guys were kind of out for a period of time. Now, granted, he was able to come back. Damien Harris down. There was another point too. He had a pretty long run, and the announcers said it themselves. They're like, if Damien Harris is healthy, he's not limping, because right after that play too, they saw him limping again. They said
pulled up lame a little bit there on that long run.
If he doesn't get injured, he is healthy, there's a potential chance that he runs for 2 long touchdowns, that 63-yarder, and then that other one where he broke away for a little bit over 10. It was like maybe 12, 15 yards there.
Yeah.
So injuries were definitely a takeaway for this one. I know Matt Judon said he was fine. Adrian Phillips said he was fine. I expect Damien Harris to be fine, but nonetheless, these guys are getting nicked up. And like we just mentioned, even those little nicks, even if they continue to play or not, can play big factors. That's a difference between
they pile up, definitely.
Yeah, that's a difference between a 12, 15-yard gain and another 50, 60-yard touchdown, right? So heading into this bye week, I think it couldn't come at a much more perfect time. You're heading into the bye week. You're on a 6 or 7 game win streak. It was
7 now, yeah.
7 now, yeah, 7 now. 7-game win streak, and you're feeling good. You have confidence, and they more than deserve this bye week, and they're heading into it for the ability to get healthy and finish out the season on a more healthy standpoint. And I look at the rest of the season and I say, you know what? You guys finished the bulk of the season. You guys finished the hardest part of the season. You come back, you got to play the Bills again. And that's going to be no tough task or no easy task.
Yeah.
But you got to play the Colts. That's not necessarily going to be an easy task either. But then you come and you play Miami, you play Jacksonville, you play some easier teams. And you know what? Right now, New England is the number 1 seed in the AFC, which means if the season ended today, New England would get the first round bye. The first round bye in the playoffs. If you would have told me New England would be in the running, or the fact that New England would be standing at the number 1 place in the AFC, looking out into the midst and seeing a first round bye in the playoffs, I would have said,
no way.
Hey, I would have said, I love where your head's at. I love the enthusiasm, but you're a little bit crazy. That's not going to happen. I said, you know what? I think the Patriots will make the playoffs this year. It could be where they're trying to squeeze into one of those last positions, but I did not expect them to be here. But you know what? They are here. New England is sitting at the top place in the AFC East. They are looking very good as an outlook on winning the AFC East. Now, this was actually a must-win game for both of these teams, both the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. Actually, I don't have the exact statistics up here, but statistically, if New England lost this game, their chances of going to the playoffs, their chances, especially of winning the AFC East and the AFC, drop significantly. But with a win, they also rise significantly.
Yeah, loser would have dropped back to a wild card spot. If Buffalo had beaten us last night, we would have fallen back to the wild card spot. And now with them being 7-5, us being 9-4, it's a good game and a half edge. With our bye week now, so Buffalo will have to play another game. Like I said, they play Tampa this week. Kind of give the edge to Tampa Bay early in that game. If Tampa can pull through and win that game, that would help us out quite a bit. And that would effectively lock up the division with just a few weeks to go.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking the exact same thing. I mean, 5th place. If we lost this, we would have went from the 1st seed all the way down to the 5th seed. And at that point, you're going, all right.
We're going to Kansas City in the first round if that would happen.
You're saying to yourself, this Colts game is a must win. I mean, you're kind of relying on other teams at that point, and that's just one team, or just one team, if you win or lose, can really implicate all of that. And New England comes out on top. Their chances of winning the AFC in general are looking much better.
Got a lot of help too with Baltimore losing to Pittsburgh. That was crucial.
Their chances of winning the AFC East, I mean, it's getting close to a lock that New England is going to win the AFC East. If Buffalo loses to Tampa Bay, which is more than possible.
Oh yeah.
I think it's pretty set in stone at that point that New England wins the AFC East.
Yeah, because we got to play them again, but it's at home. Then we finish with Jacksonville and Miami after that. So that's not too tough. We're in pretty good shape in that regard.
Yeah, because I mean, you even look at it. Even if New England, even if they tie with the same record as the Buffalo Bills, New England, at least right now, they would still have that tiebreaker over Buffalo. That's why it's so important to win these games. Even the next game when they play Buffalo, they do still want to win, even depending on seeding. But if you look at it from this perspective, New England obviously has this bye week. If Tampa Bay beats the Buffalo Bills, then the Buffalo Bills are 2 games now behind the New England Patriots, and New England beat Buffalo already in one of their 2 matchups. I mean, you're sitting pretty perfectly in the AFC East. I mean, I guarantee you, Belichick's like, hey, it's great to be back on the AFC East. Everything in the world is great again for sure. But
he's not trying to hear that right now. It's all that one day.
Belichick and this team, I guarantee you, they are looking at the AFC. They are not looking at the AFC East. They are looking at getting that first round bye in the playoffs. I mean, you're looking at the energy of this team. You don't think Kendrick Bourne, Mac Jones, Damian Harris, all of these guys, Matt Judon, you don't think that they want an extra week of vacation?
Oh yeah,
an extra week of rest? No, they are fighting for the AFC. And you know what? I mean, there's no other team in the AFC that genuinely scares me.
And again, there's only one bye now this week with this year too, since the playoffs expanded to 7. So that's by process of elimination, that helps out whoever the number 1 seed winds up being. No matter what, you're going to be playing. The rest of the AFC playoff bracket already has played another game, so you get another week of rest plus home field advantage. That's huge.
Yeah. No, if New England does end up finishing top of the AFC, essentially what that means is New England gets one home field advantage. They also get the only first round bye in the playoffs. It used to be that two teams in the AFC and the NFC get that first round bye because of new rules. Only one team is going to be able to do so. I think that started last year, so this would be the second year with that rule implemented. And that's a big deal because you're the only team that gets that extra week of rest, which is going to be extremely, extremely important. That plays a big deal because you're able to sit back, let your guys rest, get healthy, but also you got to sit back and kind of watch some film on these guys and how they're going to have to prepare. And not that it necessarily, I think it's as huge because New England is actually one of the only two teams. The Arizona Cardinals are the other team that are actually undefeated still on the road. So it's not necessarily that it plays a huge factor whether I think New England would have to play somewhere else or not. But I will say Gillette Stadium in the postseason becomes a much different hell.
Definitely.
Oh my God. Gillette Stadium postseason.
It's one of the best home field advantages in the entire NFL, especially that time of year.
It gets different. It gets different for sure. And it's one thing to have to play this team at home in the regular season. It's not necessarily easy, but to play this team home field advantage with the mentality that they currently have and the fact that it is the postseason, I definitely think that home field advantage helps out New England.
The Sam Adams start flowing around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning instead of 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon come postseason time.
Yeah, and what this also means too is that if New England does finish top of the AFC, they'd be playing and then only have to play 2 out of the 3 rounds in the playoffs. But New England would actually also play the lowest seed in the AFC. So depending on what the seeding is in the second round of the playoffs, New England would play the lowest ranked team in the AFC. So that's something also important to watch. But Reggie P here, big time donator in all of these live streams with a huge donation of $20. Shout out to you, brother, for your donation, your support for the channel. You said, which team do you think presents the biggest challenge for the Patriots in the AFC? So, you know what? Let's go down. Let's go down the list here. Let's start with Baltimore. What are your thoughts on Baltimore?
I mean, Lamar Jackson's always going to present a threat. That's always somebody you have to be worried about. But the Ravens are so beat up right now as an entire roster, top to bottom. They're without like half their starting crew from the from week one. They're just so beat up right now.
Out for the year now. Yep.
Yeah, Marlon Humphrey's out. Marcus Peters gone for the year. They went through like all 3 of their running backs earlier in the year. They're just so beat up right now. Like I said, Lamar Jackson, he always kind of makes you pause, kind of makes you worry a little bit. But the Ravens don't necessarily scare me as much as they do, or as much as they did maybe in years past, last couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that the Baltimore Ravens are a beatable team. You look at their schedule; they have an easier schedule, and just essentially how their record is the only thing that scares me. If we play them in the postseason, I'm not scared. The only way I'm scared of them right now is because New England doesn't play the Baltimore Ravens at all in the regular season, and they are kind of back to back with the seeding. And because of that, that's the only thing that scares me. But if New England goes in and has to play this team in the postseason, I'm really not that scared. They know how to manage, like you said. This New England Patriots offense too is much different compared to what it was. It is elite, top notch compared to what it was when the Baltimore Ravens had to play the Patriots last year. And now they don't have Matt Judon. They don't have their 2 starting corners. There's their linebacker whose name is escaping me right now on the tip of my tongue. He's also out for the season too. So, I mean, this Patriots offense would be able to really go out and have a field day against the Baltimore Ravens defense. And offensively, I don't think they have enough pieces that really scares me. So I definitely think that they're a beatable team. Next up, the Cleveland Browns. What are your thoughts?
Well, the Browns are explosive, but I mean, they're kind of another team that's really beat up right now. And they've got so much, kind of dissension going on with Baker Mayfield, all kinds of internal drama with them. If they even do wind up squeaking into the playoffs, I mean, we already have a 45-7 victory over them on tape this year. Now, if we were to run into them again, I think you'd fully expect them to play better than they did that time. But the Browns don't really pose any threat to me. They're kind of in that same category as the Ravens, in my opinion. Yeah,
no, I agree. They're not the same team that they were last year, the beginning of this year, and it doesn't matter. One thing I'll say for them is
for Nick Chubb. If they would be able to get Nick Chubb going in that game, that could be where you kind of worry a little bit.
That gives them more of a factor. between him and Kareem Hunt, that 1-2 punch that they didn't have against the Patriots. It would definitely give them a different aspect. But I mean, nonetheless, New England is playing better and better and better, getting more and more confident as each game goes on. I mean, I don't see how the Patriots just blow them out of the park one week and then all of a sudden they're playing a cutthroat game in the playoffs. I just don't see it happening. I don't think they have the pieces to be able to do so. The other offense just does not look good. The Patriots clearly had their way with the Browns defense, so the Browns don't scare me. But the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, New England actually is favorites to win the AFC, not just the AFC East. They're favorites to win the AFC. They have the best percentage of winning the AFC. They are 1 percentage point away from the Kansas City Chiefs. So they're really cutthroat. What are your thoughts on the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, it's probably the team that worries me the most. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, any given day, he can just kind of go off for a huge statistical game. Still got Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. That kind of speed really scares you. Seems like their defense has been playing better as of late. Frank Clark, Chris Jones up front there, Tyrann Mathieu on the back end there. So I mean, if I was to say there's any one team more than anybody else that stands out to me as a potential dangerous opponent for the Patriots, I would be the most worried about Kansas City. That would be the number one team for me to watch out for.
So I'm actually not scared of the Kansas City Chiefs. I understand why people would be. They are definitely a tough opponent to play. They're probably my first or second team that I'm most scared to play for sure. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, that defense has picked it up, but that defense still is not great. I don't know where exactly the statistics are at this current moment. I will have to check those out, but I know that they were tied with the Jacksonville Jags for most turnovers, and then they actually took first place in most turnovers. That offense does not look good. For about half the season, Pat Mahomes looked absolutely terrible. Yeah, he started to bring it back up the last couple of weeks for sure, but he started to look a lot more human. People know how to start playing more against Pat Mahomes. You look at the issues they've also had offensively with drops, whether it's Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, they've had big problems with drops in the passing game also. I mean, I don't know. This just does not seem like your regular Kansas City Chiefs team that we've seen in the past. And with how New England's playing, I'm confident that they'd be able to come out and win a game, especially if New England has that home field advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think back to the last time we played against them, which was last year also. It kind of goes into that same Baltimore category. That game was without Cam Newton early in the season. That was the game where he had COVID.
Yes, Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer.
We almost won that game in Arrowhead with Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham. So we played really close with them for 60 minutes.
The refs in that game, there were multiple terrible calls in that game too. New England should have won that game.
Yeah.
New England, if you have better quarterback play too, you cannot tell me, because at that point Cam Newton was playing as one of the top comeback players of the year. He was a true candidate for that at that point. If Cam Newton plays in that game, Patriots easily win, because it was going into halftime in that game, and they either held the Chiefs. I think they held the Chiefs to 3 points heading into halftime.
Oh, Belichick was shutting him down all day long. There was
3
no question
points
about that.
If the Patriots had an actual quarterback in that game, even Cam Newton, they easily come out and win that game, because it's not like the Patriots or the Chiefs defense was playing elite. It's that you had Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham playing for your quarterback, and you didn't even have Jarrett Stidham coming in until later in the game. But also, you even look at the year prior to that, New England should have won that game. This was
that was the N'Keal Harry non-touchdown game. That should have been called a touchdown.
You know what? Actually, hold up. Look, actually have that right here. Right there. I still have that. That's a good one
framed. I like that.
Right there, you can see his foot is in bounds. If they call this correctly, New England wins the game.
And as a result of that, they would get the number 1 seed. We'd be 13-3 instead of 12-4. We would have the head-to-head tiebreaker, a whole laundry list of things freaking happen as a result of that one damn missed call. Yeah, that's aggravating.
Exactly. And you know what? New England's beat them several times before. I mean, New England has the number against Kansas City Chiefs realistically. They really do. I'm not scared of the Kansas City Chiefs. They look human. Yes, it's going to be a race for the AFC for sure. Playing in Arrowhead is always a tough task, but you look at the history of Belichick playing Patrick Mahomes. he knows how to shut down that offense. And that is the best part about the team is the offense. New England's offense currently is playing top 3 in the NFL. I'm confident they'd be able to play very well against the.
If we had to play them too,
Chiefs.
in all likelihood, it would be at Gillette Stadium because there's no guarantee that they even win the AFC West. That division's really kind of stacked together right now. The Raiders, the Broncos, then the other team. Who's the other team in the AFC West? I'm drawing a blank right now. Chargers. The Chargers. They're also in the race too. All those teams are kind of stacked together right now. It's interesting. If we did play them, it would probably be as a wild card team, maybe in the divisional round.
Yeah. So Kansas City Chiefs, definitely no easy task, but you look at how this Patriots offense has really brought it together, especially since the last time they played them. It's not like this Kansas City Chiefs defense is top 5 in the NFL. New England has put up respectable points this season against much, much better defenses, and Belichick knows how to shut down the Kansas City Chiefs offense. He's shown that multiple times, and the Chiefs offense this year just looks human. So really, I'm not that scared. You want to move on here. What do you think about who else do we have here? What do you think about the Chargers?
They don't really pose any threat to me, really. I mean, Justin Herbert played Bill Belichick defense twice. Twice we've kind of shut him down, made him look a little silly. Chargers do have some good skill position talent, I think. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, but they just seem to never really play well against us. We seem to always know what to do to take them out of the game. It seems like Joey Bosa never really makes any kind of impact for them. Derwin James, I think he's one of the more underrated players in the entire NFL. Is
Yes.
Really good, strong safety position there. But the Chargers as a whole, they just seem to never kind of play to their level of talent, especially when they play against us. The Chargers, it seems like we always have the upper hand when we play against them.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And it's not like they had any huge players out that game that really this time around would be a difference maker. They also played at home, which again, if the Patriots win the AFC, the Chargers will be coming here. I'm not scared of the Chargers.
They might have more fans in Gillette Stadium than they did in SoFi that day, though. It was like 2/3 Patriots fans that day.
Yeah. And I mean, again, you got to imagine that if they come here, it's going to be even worse. So there's nothing about them that really scares me.
Built $1 billion stadium, they can't even get a good ratio of fans in there.
I don't remember the last time they actually beat the Patriots. But speaking of the Buffalo Bills, you scared of them?
It kind of depends. I think on a normal day, yeah, they would be a team because we play against them twice a year. We know each other. They know us. We know them. It's a team with a lot of weapons. Emmanuel Sanders, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley. If they can ever get their running game going, their defense does play well. Now their secondary is really beat up. Trayvon Diggs out for the year.
Big loss.
I think they're not really the team they were early in the season. But I think if they were to get hot on a given day, that could be a team that's problematic for us. I mean, especially given the way the game went last night. I mean, pretty much all the factors went in our favor, and we were only able to beat them by 4 points. Now, Mac wasn't really given an opportunity to showcase his talent in that kind of weather too much either. It was probably smart to err on the side of running the ball. But, I think Buffalo, just from, the two teams really knowing each other, knowing what's good, knowing what's bad, and how to attack each other, I think that would definitely possibly be a close matchup. That could be a dangerous one.
Yeah, I would say that the Buffalo Bills, to me, that is the biggest challenge for the New England Patriots. I think that is the scariest team because you look at their offense, it's a top offense in the league. Their defense, even without Tre'Davious White, he's still one of the best defenses in this game. It's just an all-around football team. And it's a better all-around football team than the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's why the Bills, to me, are a bigger threat to the New England Patriots than the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't think that the coaching for the Bills is bad. I don't. Yes, it's not Andy Reid, but it is still pretty decent coaching. And you look at the game that they just played against the Bills, even till the end of that game. I mean, we are talking about, oh my God, pick up the first down here. Oh, didn't pick up the first down. Okay, well, what are we going to do here? Okay, Mac Jones has to take like 3 steps back to kneel the ball instead of just straight up kneeling the ball to run the clock and get down to this second because you don't want to give them 20 seconds or 30 seconds or 17. You don't want to give them any chance to get down the field and potentially score a touchdown. it was still a close game. The Buffalo Bills, to me, are the scariest team to the New England Patriots. Like you said, these teams know how to play each other. They play them twice a year. In division games are different. They are very different. Even if you play a team as bad as the Jets, we've seen the Patriots play close games with teams like that because in division games are very, very different. They're just a new level of competitiveness.
And that would be the third time that you play them again. So that's kind of that factor to another level.
You know how to play them. Like you said, that would be the third time you play them. And yes, it goes both ways for both teams, but both teams. So I wouldn't say one team has the advantage over the other. It really would come down to coaching. I would give that to the Patriots. But to play the team 3 times in a year, you start to see the tendencies and you start to be able to game plan a little bit better against those. So to me, the Buffalo Bills are the scarier team against the New England Patriots. And I mean, even in in a couple of weeks when we play them at home, that's still a game that definitely scares me. I mean, that's the scariest game, in my opinion, the rest of the season. So I would say the Buffalo Bills are the biggest threat to the New England Patriots when it comes to the playoffs, when it comes to the AFC. I don't think the Buffalo Bills will win the AFC just because of seeding wise. But if we are talking about the biggest threat to the New England Patriots at potentially eliminating them from the play or eliminating them in the playoffs, it would be the Buffalo Bills for me. I don't think they're going to win the AFC because of seeding with the Patriots and seeding with, how the Ravens are playing. But as an actual threat to New England, I would say it's the Bills.
Yeah, that's fair. It's definitely fair.
Yeah. So, I mean, you look at teams like the Steelers, you look at teams like Cincinnati, good teams. I know Cincinnati's currently in the playoffs, but in a couple of weeks, things could change. The Steelers are currently out, but they're knocking on the door to potentially get in. Neither of those teams honestly scare me. They're playing good football, but I think once you play the New England Patriots, you really get shown what big boy teams are like. So I'm not scared of those teams.
Yeah, Steelers are really banged up too right now, kind of like the Ravens. And then, Cincinnati, they were kind of a cool story early in the year, but, like you said, now's the kind of team, or the kind of time of the year where the cream rises to the crop. Do they have the veteran leadership to kind of make a playoff run like that? I'm not sure if they're really there yet at that point in their franchise.
Yeah, I agree. So I would say that's the biggest threat to the Patriots there in the AFC. Thank you again to Reggie P for the big donation here. Got another one here from my boy Neil Ray, also a Patreon member. Those of you who are not Patreon members, make sure you become a Patreon member. First link in the description box below. In every single video for $10 a month, you get exclusive videos. We're going to be doing live streams or Zoom calls with everyone in the Patreon group. Patriots Football Breakdown is also in there too. So he's in the group chat. He's in the Discord where we literally discuss football, not just New England Patriots, but football in general. Live updates for you guys. Everybody in the group chat just really goes nuts about this stuff. So if you guys want to join, it really supports the channel. Only $10 a month, link in the description below. But my boy Neil says, never seen Bill Belichick so happy. He's bonding well, and it's special. I agree. I mean, I don't know if you saw last week. It was the game Kendrick Bourne just totally stiff arms. I forget who the defender was, but you're going in post game and there's a couple of different clips where Belichick's just referencing that stiff arm in the locker room, just referencing that stiff arm with Kendrick Bourne, and he's smiling, he's happy. Kendrick Bourne's just freaking. I've never seen a team just so closely bonded and just having fun. I haven't seen it from the Patriots in a while.
I mean, with Bill too, I was watching the post game press conference yesterday. I think it was, you know how he is in those press conferences. He's very, tries to be very boring and monotone and stone faced. But I could, just looking at his face, sometimes it looked like he was trying not to laugh. It looked like he was trying, like he was making a conscious effort not to smile and not kind of get out of character. Kind of the character that he plays at the press conference in a certain way. Yeah, I think maybe this team kind of growing and gelling the way it has kind of from scratch is maybe probably one of the most closest achievements to his heart, the way he's done it this year, the way he's done it at this point in his career, all the talk that he had to hear. Brady was the reason for the dynasty, blah, blah, blah. All, true Patriot fans know it was both of them. Bill was the coach. Brady was the quarterback. You don't have the success you had without the both of them. But I mean, I think Bill definitely took that personally. He wanted to show that he had just as much of an impact on that as Tom did. But, I think this team in particular for Bill is definitely going to wind up holding a special place with him just for the way that they've grown. This young team, I always kind of molded it into a new, kind of rebuilding that reputation, I think. I don't know if they necessarily have the Super Bowl prospects, who's to say how many Super Bowls anybody's going to win. But I think this Patriots team, I think the franchise as a whole is back to being that kind of reputation that they had, that winning reputation. I think we're getting back to that. I think we're starting to re-earn that again. And that's I just think one of his crowning achievements, really, of his entire coaching career.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And you know what? This is what Belichick has always wanted. And we're talking about when's Belichick going to retire. Some people say 2, some people say 3 years. But you know what? Belichick's having so much fun. I really don't believe he's thinking about retirement. He's not considering retirement. And the thing about coaching too, yeah, it's going to take your toll. But coaching isn't really going to take that big physical toll that it's going to as if you're a player. So as long as Belichick is playing or coaching at a top level and he feels like, you know what, this is fun, I think he's going to continue to coach. And this is what he's wanted to do for so long. I mean, he wanted to get rid of Brady a while before Brady decided that he was going to leave the New England Patriots. And that was a big feud between Brady, Belichick, really what sparked Brady versus Belichick. But Brady,
that was really
Belichick,
the start of it. Was like
Kraft,
2017 when they wound up shipping Jimmy to San Francisco. He wanted to send Brady to San Francisco, and he wanted to keep on with Garoppolo, depending on all the reports that have come out and all the books and whatnot. But that's kind of a separate topic for another time. We could probably do a whole show on that. But yeah, man, I just think I think he desperately wants another Super Bowl in the post-Brady era for his career resume. I think he definitely is going to do everything he can not to retire until that happens.
Yeah, and you know what? Belichick is just laughing in the face of everybody right now because everybody thought that in 1 year this argument was going to be wrapped up. All right, Brady versus Belichick, you guys have 1 year to determine. And you know what? The Patriots didn't have any cap room. They didn't have much draft capital. The pandemic happened. Just everything was against New England. And New England still almost squeezes into the playoffs. Despite all of that, one down year. Yep. And you know what? New England has a franchise quarterback.
For that game to win, or for that team to win 7 games last year, think about it. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. That was not really a 7-win team, but the fact that he was able to kind of squeeze 7 wins out of them, that's pretty damn good.
And you know what? New England has their franchise quarterback. The quarterback Belichick once wanted to build this team around. Belichick but Belichick finally got the money to be able to go out and make all of the roster moves that he wanted with this team. He went out, was able to make the moves he wanted throughout the draft. I mean, Belichick is able to finally do what Belichick has finally wanted without Brady in one ear and then Kraft in one other ear saying, hey, this is what Brady wants, and Belichick being forced to do certain things. Belichick's finally able to do what Belichick wanted to do. And because of that, he's happy, and it turned out well for the New England Patriots. I mean, I think Kraft was really in an awkward position where he goes, okay, do I listen to Bill, or do I say, you know what, Bill? No, we are keeping Tom Brady. We give him what he wants. This is the quarterback, and he's staying right here. And Belichick probably would have said, fine, I'm out. And so it really was either, you have Tom Brady at quarterback and Belichick's out. You have Belichick at head coach and Brady's out. And, Kraft just had to make that decision. He sat back once and said, you know what? I defined Belichick once. Didn't go too well for me. I'm gonna have to go with Belichick, which I think was a smart move. And again, Patriots have they have their future young quarterback. They have a young roster. The outlook on this dynasty 2.0 looks really good. The Patriots have Belichick, who is in the lead for Coach of the Year. They have who is it? Mac Jones, who is in the lead for Rookie of the Year. You have J.C. Jackson and Matt Judon, who are in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. The Patriots are right now the number 1 team in the AFC. They are winning the AFC East. I mean, all in 1 year, despite having a rookie quarterback, despite the roster turnover, which is like half the roster is different. I mean,
it's like 2001 all over again. It really is.
It blows my mind. It really is. And it's safe to say that the Patriots are back, and it's because of Belichick.
Yep.
So, big shout out again there to Neil Ray. Really appreciate your donation and being a Patreon member. I know we have another donation. Let me find it. Felipe out here. He said, "What?" He asked a really good question. I knew someone was going to ask this at some point. What happened to Winnow? I know we haven't seen him on the field on the longest time. So it looks like he wants to know what happened to Uche and Winovich. What's going on with them? You want to share your thoughts on that?
Winovich, I think he's just the odd man out in the rotation at this
Oh yeah,
point. I don't think he really has a future with the team anymore. Uche is on injured reserve, if I'm not mistaken, right? Didn't they put him on IR just a week or so ago?
yeah. I think his 3 weeks is basically he can come back after
So
the bye.
he's pretty close to coming back, but yeah, he was on the IR there for a little while. But yeah, as far as Winovich is concerned, it's kind of strange too because he really had a good rookie year. I think he had 7.5, 8.5 sacks his rookie year. But after that, playing time just kept steadily decreasing, and he just kind of fell out of favor with the staff, fell out of the rotation, and it looks like his days are numbered. Unfortunately, it's kind of crazy how you kind of start off as a fan favorite, then kind of drift into the ether. Usually, it's the other way around, but yeah, pretty strange there. I mean, but who knows? Injuries could pile up again, and we might wind up having to call on him. Maybe in a potentially important spot in the playoffs. So never say never.
Yeah, I mean, I love Winovich. I genuinely really was hoping that they were going to be able to find some role for him, whether it's as an edge rusher, whether it's as a blitzing linebacker, a stand-up linebacker, whether that's outside or middle linebacker. I saw him more as a middle linebacker than an outside, but whatever the Patriots wanted to do. Never really got much into the rotation this year at all, and that's because of the depth. At the end of the day, though, Winovich is a good player, but he is more one-dimensional, and you have to be very, very, very good at least one of those sides. If you're going to be a one-dimensional player, you have to be very good at either stopping the run or getting to the quarterback, and you have to do it at a very, very high and consistent level. And unfortunately, that's not exactly what Winovich does. Because of his special teams ability at this point is really the only way he's getting on the field. He gets some snaps there on defense for sure. He gets within that rotation. But for the most part, I mean, you're not going to put him over Matt Judon. You're not going to put him over Kyle Van Noy. They like Dietrich Wise too much. And like you said, because of that, unfortunately, he is the odd man out. I do love Winovich. I love his energy. I know that he wants to stay a Patriot. He tried to bulk up this season to try to be a more all-around defensive end, get better at stopping the run, which has been a big issue for him so far in his young NFL career. But unfortunately, the Patriots kind of just went out and they said, we can't wait on the what ifs. We can't wait on the potential. We're going to go out and get something that we are sure will make that difference. And that's exactly what they did. And honestly, I think Winovich gets traded this offseason. I really do. I think at this point, they try to get some type of compensation back. I think Winovich can be a good player for another team, and I wish nothing but the best for him. But I just don't think that there's a place here for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too. I mean, a lot of people, want to get better in certain areas, want to improve the roster, but sometimes improving the roster requires you to get rid of somebody. It's not always just everybody improving. Sometimes you have to add by subtracting sometimes. And this is probably just a clear case of that. Like you said, he's destined to have, a role with another team in the future, and, wish him all the best of luck with that. But I just don't see his future being in New England.
Yeah, I mean, an excellent example of what you just said would be the Ravens. I mean, they had a stacked secondary, especially at cornerback this offseason. They picked up Shaun Wade in the 5th round, young cornerback, just in this past draft. Then they send him off to New England this offseason before the start of this 2021 season. Why did they do it? I mean, Shaun Wade looked spectacular for them in the preseason. Still a young guy who they just drafted.
I bet they wish they had him back now.
Yeah, but you know what? They had to get rid of him because they had enough depth there at the secondary at cornerback at the time, and they said,
yeah,
you know what, we can only have 53 players, and we have too many guys at the cornerback position. We need to ship someone off, and that's kind of what it's like for New England there at the edge position. You have Kyle Van Noy, who sets the edge sometimes. Dante Hightower sets the edge sometimes. Judon, Dietrich Wise, again, guys like Uche. He's just, unfortunately, the odd man out. As for Josh Uche, I will say, they finally were playing him a good amount in the beginning of the season, and he was going off. I mean, this looked like a career year already. Potentially double digits. Potentially double digits, at least high single digits for Josh Uche. Then the Patriots really were dropping that usage down. I do know that they tried using him a little bit more as stand-up linebacker, but I think he mainly is an edge defender. And I think part of that reason too, though, is still him being a little bit raw. But also he's a little bit one-dimensional. Also, he's really good at getting to the quarterback.
Yeah.
Still trying to figure out how to defend the run, but he's another player too. Like, I'm going to be very, very, very upset if New England drafted Chase Winovich fairly high and Josh Uche fairly high, and two very good players with very good potential. I'm going to be upset if New England doesn't get the full potential out of either of those guys just because they have depth there at that position, because they went out and they signed Matt Judon to a big contract. They bring back Kyle Van Noy. Who else? Dietrich Wise. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think those guys have potential, especially Josh Uche. Let's get that potential out of them, especially while they're on a short, young, expendable rookie contract.
Then on top of that, you got guys like Cameron McGrone, Raekwon McMillan they signed in the offseason. He
Ronnie
gets hurt during
Perkins,
training camp.
Ronnie
Perkins, exactly. Another rookie this year that hasn't seen the field because of an injury. So they got some young guys waiting in the wings here. So it's going to be really interesting over the next kind of year or two, just from a roster composition perspective, who winds up winning out, who winds up getting those spots.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. So there's a lot to it. But I really do think that Winovich is out of the way at this point. I would definitely say Winovich is the odd man out here because the potential, the consistency, the all-around player that Uche does outweigh that factor of Winovich. I think Winovich is better on special teams than Uche is, but Uche also does play some special teams. So I think that's enough for Belichick to keep him. And hopefully at some point, he can see the field a little bit more, when he comes back off of injured reserve. But they've really been putting guys on and off of that thing all year with these new rules. Yeah. So, but I just want to give a huge shout out here to Steven. Looks like he's a Titans fan. He just says, congratulations on holding the first seed. Week 15 is going to get brutal since Patriots battle Colts, who's also on a bye week in a Saturday night showdown. So, I mean, yeah, the AFC
Saturday night game when we play them this year.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm kind of excited for that, but it's wide open. It's wide open, and I'm super excited. But I mean, respect to you for being a Titans fan and giving us that love. Really do appreciate it.
Diplomat. Wow. Usually they come in here running their mouths.
Yeah, right. Usually it's Bills fans.
Oh God, yeah.
Neil Race's Patriots football breakdown. Love the streams. Patriots Global. Thank you. Barmore is fired. Did you see Barmore getting
you got like quadruple teams
guys,
the other day.
Four guys going up on him. Oh my God. He's the most double, triple teamed defensive tackle.
He's going to be a star, man.
In the entire league.
He's going to be a star.
He has been way more than impressive. But let's get back here to some of the statistics. Neil Ray, buddy, thank you again for that donation. Some of these statistics here for the Patriots versus Bills game. Not much there in the passing game for the Bills, but obviously compared to the Patriots, there's a lot more to talk about for their passing game because New England, again, put up, 19 total yards passing. So there's not really much to talk about there. But Josh Allen, 30 attempts. Okay, to put that into perspective, Mac Jones threw three attempts to Josh Allen's 30 pass attempts, but he only had 15 completions out of those 30 attempts for 145 yards. Stephon Diggs was his top receiver. Stephon Diggs was targeted 7 times, only put up 4 receptions, though, for 51 yards, 0 touchdowns.
Yeah, man. I mean, it just goes to show, it sounds, trite, and we say it all the time. And, it's not like the glamorous, highlight reel stuff, but late in the year, you have to be able to run the football. You got to be able to stop the run, turnover differential, time of possession, man. That simple, that boring meat and potato stuff. That's the stuff that wins in the playoffs, man. That's the stuff that wins late in the year. That's the formula that they're using right now on the 7-game win streak. That's the stuff you got to be able to do to win later in the year.
Yeah. And I mean, Josh Allen really carried this Buffalo Bills offense, which, I mean, respect to him. And I mean, you knew that was going to be the case. Buffalo Bills, not secondary, but their backfield, their running backs was Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, not good, especially because those are guys who have issues holding on to the ball. Josh Allen wasn't only the leading receiver, but he was also the leading rusher. 6 attempts, 39 yards, 6.5 yards in average, and he was really scrambling just at the perfect times. That's really what was moving the chains here for the Buffalo Bills. Devin Singletary was the next best runner here. He had 10 attempts, 36 yards, but only averaging 3.6 yards per average. So Josh Allen really carrying this Buffalo Bills offense. But
it's a big part of their running game too, is really the designed runs with Josh Allen. A lot of the times they'll do like a student body right, student body left, pull a guard and a tackle around, and they'll just kind of attack one gap. And it's kind of interesting the way they do. It's really like a glorified wildcat, except for the fact that the quarterback is, obviously Josh Allen, or the ball carrier, I should say, is a quarterback that can pull up and throw at any time. So that's particularly dangerous. It was good that we didn't really allow them to get that going last night, because that was probably going to be the one big key to the game for them. Probably the strongest part of their offense is the design run with the quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at the Patriots side of things, then Mac Jones, like I mentioned, 3 passes attempted, 2 completions, 19 yards. You look at Damian Harris, 10 attempts, only 10 attempts, 111 yards. This is his 4th 100 plus game rushing. He put up 1 touchdown. He was averaging 11.1 yards on the ground.
That one big one.
Yeah, that one big one really sparked him. Probably would have had that extended, or that second big one probably would have been even more if he wasn't dealing with the injury like we talked about earlier. Ramondre Stevenson, a big part of this. I mean, Damian Harris, 10 attempts. Ramondre Stevenson, actually, 24 attempts. Big part of that probably was, Damian Harris dealing with that injury, but 78 yards for Ramondre Stevenson on 24 attempts, averaging 3.8 yards per carry. Brandon Bolden got 4 attempts, 28 yards, averaging 7 yards per carry. So, I mean, despite the Buffalo Bills knowing New England was going to run the ball, which they obviously knew because, again, 3 attempts the entire game passing, really weren't able to stop the team. 11.1 yard average for Damian Harris, 7 yard average for Bolden, 3.8 for Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, to know exactly what is coming to you and still not be able to stop it really says the power to this offense.
Yeah.
Especially the blockers.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, just great, physicality all day long by the offensive line. That's the thing probably that's been the biggest turnaround this year, I think, from earlier in the season. Is the offensive line. It was kind of in shambles the first month or so of the season. And it's really become a strong point of the team once again during this win streak.
And I mean, really to dictate the fact that this was a run first game for the New England Patriots. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different rushers. 6 different rushers in this entire game. Like I told you, they really brought out everything in their run scheme to win this game. You also had Kendrick Bourne, 1 attempt for 3 yards. You had Jonnu Smith, also 1 attempt for -1 yards. Mac Jones, 5 attempts for -3 yards. That puts the Patriots at a total of 46 attempts running for 222 yards and 1 touchdown.
It was no secret. They didn't make any bones about it. They were just going to come out and run the ball. Also read that I think it was like 2/3 of the plays for the Patriots offense last night. They had 6 offensive linemen or more on the field. At least 6 offensive linemen. So they were really getting in those heavy jumbo packages. And just
Mike Onwenu, man. Mike Onwenu came in a lot as a tight end in those packages to be an extra blocker. In the receiving game, not too much to talk about here for New England, as, again, you could probably have imagined. Jonnu Smith, 1 catch, 12 yards. Best catch of the season for him. A couple of weeks ago. No, I think it was actually a week ago, coming off his best performance of the entire season against his previous team, comes back here in this game, makes a spectacular catch, first down for the New England Patriots. And then Brandon Bolden, 1 catch for 7 yards. That puts the Patriots at 2 receptions for 19 yards, like we mentioned earlier. Not too much to talk about on that side of things.
There's room to grow.
There's room to grow.
Got some room for upside going forward.
So Felipe actually asked an excellent question that I wanted to touch on. So I'm really glad you asked it. Felipe, $5 donation. He says, what the F was N'Keal doing at returner? Also, any word on what Bill Belichick will do with Jackson's contract next year? We're so thin at corner, it is scary. So, I mean, I have no clue what Belichick was thinking in putting N'Keal Harry back there. I don't know if Gunnar Olszewski had been dealing with some type of injury. Like, I know he'd been on the injury report before, and Belichick was just, scared and didn't really want to utilize him in that aspect. I know Ramondre Stevenson's a rookie, but I would have even put Jacoby Myers back there at that point. Put Jacoby Myers back there. I'm more comfortable with that. You put N'Keal Harry back there. He muffs the ball, and that leads to the only touchdown actually for the Buffalo Bills that entire game, which is a big reason the game was even close. I mean, I don't know why N'Keal Harry was back there. I think it was dumb. They didn't do it the rest of the game, so they clearly knew that it was a dumb move. Also, you have any perspective on why you think N'Keal Harry was back there?
Well, it looked like they were both back on the field on the play. I think it was more so like one guy deep, one guy short. I think they were just kind of, it was unpredictable as to whether or not where the ball was going to go, where the ball was going to bounce. I think they were trying to kind of cover their bases in all those situations. But, really, like you saw, it's not a situation that you practice a lot. So then to trot it out during the game really wasn't a very wise move by the coaching staff. Like you said, N'Keal Harry, not used to fielding punts in that situation, winds up bouncing off his face mask, becomes a live ball. Buffalo recovers. Very next play, they score a touchdown. I would have just, that's one where you just stay away from it. Don't even send a return man back. The winds are swirling so hard at that point. Just let the ball go where it's going to go. If it downs inside the 5, so be it. But it's so dangerous, messing around with a live ball situation. Obviously, that's what wound up happening. You touch the ball, and then Buffalo, you muff a punt, Buffalo recovers it. And it's a crucial, critical penalty, or not a penalty, but a negative play against you. Yeah, I mean, returning punts and kicks was dicey all night long. I would have just stayed away from that one. I'm surprised that they even had anybody back to return it.
Yeah, I mean, and even to bring up your point that you just mentioned, I mean, the opening kickoff went all the way into the stands.
Yeah.
So you obviously knew that ball very well could have went back and ended up being a touchback for you. I don't know why N'Keal was close to the ball. I mean, like you mentioned, I think you put some good perspective on the potential outlook on why he was even there. But I mean, you got to imagine that they had something else planned, because even if N'Keal Harry does get the ball in his hands, everything has to go perfect for him to go somewhere. He's not a fast guy, so he's not going to burn anybody. Guys are going to be able, on the Bills side, defenders are going to be able to catch up to N'Keal Harry pretty easy. The only thing that N'Keal Harry has is that he is good after he gets the ball in his hands because of how good he is and how strong he is, how hard he is to bring down. But you don't really see those types of guys going and breaking for punt returns for touchdowns or kick returns for touchdowns. It's usually those fast, elusive guys who can make cuts and get into open spaces that are usually the ones that make those plays. And that's just the opposite of the type of guy that N'Keal Harry is. So it really
once the ball takes a bounce too, once it comes down out of the air and bounces onto the field, that's when you typically want to stay away from it, because it's so unpredictable where it's going to bounce next. Kind of just want to get away from it. Obviously, if it even touches you, it's a live ball situation at that point. Just stay away from it. That's why you hear them yell like they yell like a P word, Peter, or poison or whatever. That's just a signal, like, get away from it. No, I'm surprised they really didn't do it right there, but that's typically what you do in that situation.
Yeah, and I mean, to touch on the second part of this, JC Jackson's contract. So obviously at this current time, we're not going to be hearing too much about the contract. JC Jackson is a free agent at the end of the season. He was a restricted free agent this past season. Patriots placed that tender on him. This means that he will be an unrestricted free agent in the upcoming months. So about in March, he'll officially be a free agent. Any team can sign him. From what I'm hearing, hopefully they can get a long-term contract done. But from what I am hearing, it looks like the franchise tag is going to be heavily involved in this situation. So I would expect the franchise tag to be placed on JC Jackson. And then I'm hearing that either they're either going to tag and trade him, or he's going to play the year under the tag.
Yeah, I mean, it would be smart for, JC's side to not really agree to something too early. I mean, you'd like to test the market, see what you can get out on the open market. And then it would be wise for the Patriots to tag him, so you're not losing him for virtually nothing. I mean, you'd get the compensatory third-round pick, but, compared to a player like J.C. Jackson right now, the year that he's having, that's basically nothing. Ideally, like you said, tag him in the thought of just using it as a placeholder so he can't negotiate with other teams, get something done long term. I would like to see him get a long-term contract with the team. And I was kind of back and forth on that. Like coming into the year, I didn't really think that I was going to be wanting to give him a long-term contract. But after the year that he's had, and especially after Stephon Gilmore's departure, the way that he's really stepped up as a number one corner, I think he is deserving of that. And I think he has really taken the next step as part of his game. I think he's become a more refined corner than more so just a ball hawk. I think he provides more at that spot than just having great hands. I think he's deserving of the contract extension. I hope that he gets it, but you know how things like that work out. Guys typically don't get the money that they're asking for. In New England, usually it winds up coming somewhere else, but who knows? I mean, let's see what happens. Hopefully, we got to have somebody back there because, like Freddie said, or like Felipe said, we got very scarce depth at the cornerback position. I mean, it's going to be, pretty much just talking about Jonathan Jones and a couple of other undrafted guys. Jalen Mills, you probably want to move him back to safety with the possible departure of Adrian Phillips, possible departure of Devin McCourty, and got a lot of turnover in the secondary there. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all that shakes out. I think ideally we do want to get a deal done with JC just to have some of that continuity and a talented player back there.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that Belichick knows about that and doesn't want to see him walk. And even you look at J.C. Jackson, he's put a lot of praise on the Patriots. He's put a lot of praise on Bill Belichick, and he genuinely seems like an actual Patriot. I love Stephon Gilmore. I'm appreciative for Stephon Gilmore, but Gilmore was always a guy who was going to chase the bag, always going to chase the money. As where I feel like because of what Patriots and Belichick have done for J.C. Jackson, I feel like maybe he'd give a little bit of a discount. That's not to say you're going to give him $7 million, a year, and that's the type of discount you're going to get. But, maybe there's a team that would offer him, 20 million a year or 18 million a year, and the Patriots offer him maybe 15, and he takes a little bit of a discount in order to stay with New England. We'll just have to see ultimately when the time comes around, but I am more confident with JC Jackson and his genuineness to stay with the team than versus Stephon Gilmore.
Right.
So let me see. I know we have another donation here. Reggie P with another one. You said, can you imagine if the Patriots versus Bucs are the Super Bowl right now? That is the highest percentage Super Bowl that they have ranked right now. That is also the favorites to be in the Super Bowl. We were actually talking about this before it happened.
Absolutely.
Before we got on here.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, man. Could you imagine? Wow.
I mean, Vegas is the one that makes money, right? Could you imagine?
Oh, I know they would love it.
A Patriots Buccaneers Super Bowl rematch of what happened earlier this year. Brady versus Belichick, new versus old. I mean, every single category that you could look at. Every category you could look at, that's what you're going to get in the Patriots versus Bucs Super Bowl. And at the end of the day, they want what's going to be most interesting, what's going to give them the most money, the best ratings. I don't see a better Super Bowl than that. So right now, that's my pick for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, the way things are shaping up right now, certainly it's hard to make an argument otherwise, man. I mean, obviously it's wide open, but you just look at who's hot right now. The Patriots are the team in the AFC. When it comes down to it in the NFC, you kind of tend to side with the reigning champions. The champion's a champion until they get beat. So yeah, it could be shaping up that way, man. It could be really interesting. Could you imagine that? I still can't even really wrap my head around it. That would be just so wild.
I think it's interesting too. I mean, you look at where both of these teams have come since they originally played earlier this season, and the Patriots have gotten hotter, and I would say the Buccaneers have kind of dropped down a little bit. So real interesting storylines here for both of those. I'm really excited to see the Super Bowl this year. But Reggie P here, another donation. My man's going ham. You said, shout out Brian George Parker. Happy holidays. Go Pats. Yes, sir. Happy holidays. Go Patriots. Everybody be safe. Shout out again to Brian George Parker. Reggie's giving you a huge, huge shout out. So make sure you thank your boy for that. See if we got any other donations in the chat here. And it looks like we don't. I do want to make sure to give a big shout out to the sponsors of this video and really the sponsors of this channel. They've been sponsoring me here for a while. BetOnline.ag for all of your betting needs. BetOnline is the best way, the most popular place, and the safest way to bet on not just your sports action, but even just your gambling needs and wants. Guys, BetOnline's back and better than ever as all teams are back to start another football season. And as always, again, BetOnline, your number one spot for all of the pro, college, and NFL action for this season. They have a new updated site and interface with even more odds, props, and contests. And BetOnline is the number one source for everything football. All you guys have to do is head to their website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 100% off welcome bonus. That is double your initial deposit just for signing up. Do not forget to use that promo code NFL100. That is, again, NFL100. All the way from football, basketball, boxing to your favorite Vegas casino games. Do not wait to take advantage of all of the amazing offers available still for the 2021 season. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Yes, sir. But that's, for me personally, that is all I have here for the recap on Patriots versus Bills. Currently, we have a bye week, so obviously we don't have anything to talk about for a game next week. But me and Patriots Football Breakdown rather, we'll make sure to get on at some point during the bye week. We'll talk about it maybe that Monday, that Sunday.
Well, maybe with the bye week coming up, we take a kind of a macro look at the NFL, just kind of break down all the games, do some picks, something like that.
Break everything down, maybe do some picks, maybe kind of just look at the Patriots from a wide angle here as we're on the bye week. We'll talk about it off air and kind of figure out what we're going to do. But we'll make sure we catch you guys in next week. Like always, make sure you guys subscribe here to the channel, Patriots Global, for all of your New England Patriots needs, recaps, post-game, highlights, everything. And also subscribe to my boy, Patriots Football Breakdown. Again, Patriots Football Breakdown for all of your Patriots needs. Also, we both got you covered for all of that. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to both of us, comment all of your feelings. But without further ado, Pats Nation, we will catch you in the next one. We appreciate you. We love you. And go Patriots.